The rain had not stopped for 3 days when the stranger appeared at the edge of Sarah's property, standing at the broken fence line like something conjured out of the storm itself. She watched him from the kitchen window, one hand resting protectively on her son's shoulder, the other gripping the curtain so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Stay inside." "Tommy," she whispered, though the boy was already pressing his face to the glass. 8 years old and endlessly curious despite everything they had lost, the man walked slowly, deliberately, the way people do when they don't want to be mistaken for a threat. When he reached the porch, Sarah opened the door only a crack. The shotgun she rarely used but always kept loaded resting just out of sight behind the frame. "Ma'am," he said, water dripping from the brim of his worn hat. "I don't mean any trouble." "Name's Caleb. I saw your fence down on the north pasture, and your barn roof's got a hole big enough to lose a horse through. I can fix both, if you'll let me. All I'm asking is somewhere dry to sleep." "I'll take the barn. I won't ask for anything else." Sarah studied him the way she had learned to study everything since her husband died 2 years ago for lies, for hunger, for the particular desperation that made men dangerous. But what she saw instead was exhaustion so deep it seemed to live in his bones, and eyes that flickered toward Tommy with something like grief rather than calculation. "I don't have money to pay you," she said. "Didn't ask for any." She should have said no. Every rational instinct told her to close the door, to remember that trusting strangers was how good women ended up buried behind their own barns. But the bank had sent its third notice that week the roof leaked directly onto the hay she needed for winter, and she was one bad season away from losing the only thing her husband had left them. Pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. "The barn's yours," she said finally. "There's a wood stove. Don't come near the house after dark." Caleb nodded once, like a man accepting a sentence rather than a favor, and disappeared into the rain toward the barn. He kept his word in ways that unsettled her at first, then slowly began to heal something she hadn't realized was broken. Within a week, the fence stood straight and true. Within 2, the barn roof no longer wept onto the hay. He worked from dawn until the light gave out, never lingering near the house, never overstepping the boundary she had drawn, speaking to Tommy only when the boy approached him first with 1,000 questions about horses and hammers and the scar that ran along his forearm. It was Tommy who broke through first, the way children often do, unburdened by adult suspicion. He began following Caleb around the property, handing him nails, asking about the war he must have fought, and judging by the way he sometimes stared at nothing for long minutes. Caleb never spoke of it directly, but he taught the boy to whittle, to read the sky for coming storms, to sit quietly beside grief, without needing to fill it with words. Sarah watched this unfold with a caution that slowly eroded into something else. She began leaving an extra plate at dinner, then inviting him to eat it at the table instead of alone in the barn. She learned that he had lost his own family in ways he never fully explained, only that the silence in his voice when he mentioned them matched the silence that lived in her own chest since the funeral. The real test came in October, when the bank's foreclosure notice arrived with a red seal and a 30-day deadline that felt like a death sentence. Sarah sat at the kitchen table long after Tommy had gone to sleep, staring at numbers that refused to add up no matter how many times she recalculated them. She didn't hear Caleb enter until he set an envelope on the table beside her hands. "What is this?" she asked. "Everything I've saved these past 6 months. It's not much, but it should buy you time with the bank." "I can't take this." "You're not taking anything," he said quietly. "I'm paying rent I should have paid from the start. I've been living here for free, eating your food, becoming part of something I thought I'd lost forever. Let me do this one thing." Sarah felt something crack open in her chest, some wall she had built brick by brick since the day she buried her husband. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you give us everything you have?" Caleb was quiet for a long moment, his eyes finding Tommy's bedroom door down the hall. "Because you and that boy gave me a reason to stop drifting. I came here broken, ma'am, planning to keep moving until the moving killed me one way or another. You let me sleep in your barn and didn't ask questions I couldn't answer. That's more than most people offered me in 3 years. The foreclosure was delayed, then renegotiated, then eventually resolved through months of careful work neither of them anticipated when he first appeared at that broken fence. But the greater rescue happened quietly. In the ordinary moments neither noticed until they had already changed everything. Tommy's laughter returning